home, a job, a name, a family, a future. The sense that tomorrow can actually be better than today. Imagine someone who had all of that taken away. Not figuratively, really taken. Not he's going through a rough patch. Not he's burned out. Not he lost his drive. Actually stripped of almost everything. A home, a job, a name, a family, a future. Any sense of safety. Any sense that tomorrow can actually be better than today. And in that place, a person stops asking, how do I get more successful? How do I make my dreams happen? How do I find happiness? A different question shows up. Scarier. Deeper. More honest. What's left of a person when life takes almost everything away? That's the question Viktor Frankl leads us to in his book, Yes to Life, in Spite of Everything. But this video isn't a book summary. It's not a lecture about concentration camps. And it's definitely not an attempt to turn that horror into a neat, motivational example. Because the camps weren't a lesson, not a school of life, not a spiritual practice, not a path to self-improvement. It was evil, tragedy, dehumanization, a place designed to strip a person not just of freedom, but of dignity. Which is exactly why Frankl's words carry the weight they do. He didn't write from a comfortable chair. He didn't theorize about meaning in a cozy lecture hall. He wasn't selling people a beautiful formula for happiness. He walked through a place where cheap motivation is the first thing to die. And from that place, he brought back one idea that every person needs to hear, especially anyone going through real pain right now. It's not suffering alone that breaks a person. It's suffering that no longer has any meaning. That doesn't make pain harmless. No. Pain can wound deeply. Loss can change who you are. Betrayal can destroy trust. Injustice can shake your heart so hard that you spend years trying to come back from it. Frankl didn't say, just think positive. Those words can sound almost cruel. When someone's lost someone they love, they don't need slogans. When they've been betrayed, they don't need everything happens for a reason. When they're standing in the wreckage of their life, they don't need a cheerful voice saying, come on, you're fine. You're not fine. Sometimes something genuinely evil happened. Sometimes it was a real tragedy. Sometimes a person went through something they should never have had to go through. And spiritual maturity doesn't begin by denying the pain. It begins with the truth. Yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I'm wounded. Yes, this was wrong. Yes, I don't understand why it happened. Yes, I can't just erase it. But then the next question comes. What is this pain going to do to my heart? Will it make me hard? Cold? Shut me down so I can never trust again? Turn me into someone who lives in the past? Make me cynical, angry, bitter, closed off? Or can I walk through it without losing myself completely? That's where real strength begins. Not the strength of a mask, not the strength of pride, not the strength of a closed-off heart. Something different. The strength of someone who faces the truth, doesn't lie to themselves, doesn't pretend they don't care, but doesn't hand pain the final word either. That kind of strength is often quiet. I didn't choose this pain, but I won't let it choose who I become. That's the inner freedom Frankl wrote about. A person can have almost everything taken from them, but one freedom can remain, the freedom to choose how you respond to what's happening. This idea is easy to distort, though. It doesn't mean, just choose a better attitude. Don't suffer. If you're in pain, you must be thinking wrong. No. Inner freedom isn't freedom from tears, not freedom from memory, not freedom from consequences. Inner freedom is the ability to say, I won't call what was evil good. I won't pretend it didn't happen. But I won't let this destruction become who I am. Because evil's most terrible victory isn't just the pain it causes. Evil's worst victory is when it makes you look like itself. You were betrayed, and you start betraying. You were humiliated, and you start humiliating. You were lied to, and you decide truth doesn't matter anymore. You were treated cruelly, and cruelty starts to feel normal. At that point, pain didn't just pass through you, it moved in. and started speaking in your voice. But there's another path. Not easy, not fast, not pretty, but real. You can say, yes, I was wounded, but I don't want someone else's evil to become the law I live by inside. And that brings us to the central question of meaning. Most people think meaning is something big. Find your purpose, make a name for yourself, build something, leave a legacy, achieve something others can see. But for Frankl, meaning is usually much closer. Meaning can be found in the person who needs you, in the child you get up for in the morning, in the honest work you do, not perfectly, but faithfully, in the small decision not to answer wrong with more wrong, in the ability to not destroy today what can still be saved. Meaning isn't always a big stage. Sometimes meaning is the kitchen at 7 in the morning, making breakfast for your kids when you barely slept. Sometimes it's not sending that angry text, even when you're burning inside. Sometimes it's asking for forgiveness, even when your pride fights back. Sometimes it's just getting through the day in a way that doesn't make the darkness worse by nightfall. Frankl flips the usual question. We normally ask, what do I want from life? But in hard times, that question stops working. Because what you want is for the pain to be gone, for the past to disappear, for the betrayal to be undone, for the person you lost to come back, for the illness to go away, for life to go back to how it was. But life doesn't always take you back. And so a different question shows up. Not just what do I want from life, but what is life asking of me right now? And for a person of faith, that question can go even deeper. What does God expect from my heart right now? Not from my mask, not from my image, not from my desire to look strong, from my heart. Maybe right now I'm being asked not to take revenge, not to harden, not to run towards something that'll numb me, not to blow up my family in a moment of rage. Maybe to own my part, to stop worshiping control, to choose truth again, to learn to trust God where I can no longer trust my own plans. None of that makes the pain easy, but it gives back a direction. Because weakness isn't tears. Tears can be honest. Weakness is handing your soul over to the first fear, the first offense, the first rage, the first impulse to burn everything down. Strength is being wounded and refusing to let the wound become your master. Frankl said there are 3 paths to meaning: through work, through love, and through how you face suffering you can't undo. The first path, through work. Not necessarily great work, not work anyone applauds, not work that makes headlines. We often undervalue small faithfulness. We want the big calling, the big stage, the big result. But maturity rarely starts big. It starts with what's already in front of you. Do your work honestly. Don't drop your responsibilities. Show up for the people who depend on you. Bring order where you can. Don't wait for the perfect mood before you take the right step. Faith in God doesn't free a person from responsibility. If anything, it deepens it. Because then my life isn't just a random set of wants. It's a gift. And a gift calls for a response. I've been given life, people, abilities, time, a conscience, the capacity to change. The question isn't just what I can get. The question is what I'll do with what's already been entrusted to me. The second path, through love. But love also needs to be cleared of illusions. We often call love what's really a hunger for someone else to fill our emptiness. You need to make me feel valuable. You need to prove I'm not alone. You need to be a certain way so I'm not afraid. And when that person can't carry it, we feel destroyed, because we put on them what no person was ever meant to carry. No person can hold the weight of a soul that was made for God. Not even the closest person. Not a spouse. Not a child. Not a parent. When a person is placed in God's place, they don't get closer. They become a prisoner of our expectations. And we're not loving anymore. We're demanding to be rescued. Real love is different. It doesn't make another person the source of your whole life. It sees a gift in them, a living soul, value, not a possession, not a function, not a painkiller. And then love really does give meaning, not because they become your God, but because love takes you out of the prison of yourself. You start to see another person. And sometimes love is what keeps someone from falling apart. Not romantic feeling, but deep faithfulness. I'm needed. I'm responsible. There are people in front of whom I need to stay human. The third path is the hardest. Meaning through how you face suffering you can't undo. Here we need to be careful. Not every suffering should just be endured. If someone's in danger, they need to find safety. If there's an illness, get treatment. If there's injustice, do what you can to stop it. If you can get out of a destructive situation, don't call passivity spirituality. Acceptance isn't agreement with evil. Acceptance is agreement with the truth. And sometimes the truth demands action. But there are some things you can't undo. The past can't be rewritten. Death can't be reversed. Some consequences have already settled in. Some words have already been said. Some losses have become part of who you are. And then comes the question, how do I walk through what I can't change? Not how to pretend it isn't there, not how to explain the pain away, but how to walk through it without losing your heart. Because in suffering, a person often sees what was hidden before. Anger, pride, fear, resentment, unbelief, the need to control everything, the need to punish, the need to be right at any cost. And if a person is honest, they can see, the problem isn't only what was done to me. The problem is also what this pain has brought up from inside my heart. That's uncomfortable to admit, but that's exactly where healing starts. Not with self-deception, not with a victim posture, not with "I'm above all this," with honesty. Yes, I was hurt, but I'm also responsible for what I let live inside me now. Yes, I was wronged, but I don't want someone else's failure to become the excuse for my own darkness. Yes, I'm weak, but my weakness can become the place where I stop trying to be God and start looking for strength in the one who is greater than me. Let me pause here for just a moment. If this conversation is resonating with you, go ahead and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who right now don't need loud motivation. They need something to stand on. Thank you. And that brings us to the question of false foundations. A person is always serving something. Even when they say, "I'm free, I don't serve anyone," their heart is still resting on something. I want to name 4 of the most common ones. The first false foundation, success. Success itself isn't bad. Working, building, achieving, those are good things. But if success has become the main foundation of your worth, you can't handle failure. A mistake stops being just a mistake. It becomes a verdict. The second false foundation, relationships. Relationships can be a blessing. Family can be a gift. But when another person becomes your God, you lose yourself every time they pull away. You stop loving and start clinging. You stop trusting and start controlling. You stop seeing them and start demanding they save you. The third false foundation, control. Order matters. Responsibility matters. Planning matters. But if control has become your God, you become irritable every time life slips out of your hands. You don't just struggle with difficulty. You rage at the very fact that the world won't do what you want. And then any disruption feels like the end of the world. The fourth false foundation, what people think. Being heard matters. Being understood matters. But when other people's opinions become your God, you're not really living anymore. You're always performing for an invisible audience. What will they think? Will they approve? Will they judge me? And gradually, a person can lose themselves trying to be acceptable to everyone. Here's the thing. Success, relationships, control, and what people think. None of these are evil in themselves. The problem starts when a good thing takes the place of the main foundation. When a gift becomes an idol. When a means becomes the meaning. When the temporary becomes eternal. When what should be part of life starts demanding to be worshipped. And a false foundation always promises safety and ends up enslaving you. So when a trial comes, it doesn't create the problem, it reveals it. When everything's calm, we can paint a very flattering picture of ourselves. I'm wise, I'm a person of faith, I'm strong, I'm patient, I'm free. And then the blow comes. And suddenly it turns out that faith was smaller than fear. Love was mixed with control. Patience held only until the first real pain. Humility existed only while we were respected. and the meaning of life was built not on God and truth, but on everything going the way I wanted it to. That's a painful discovery, but it can be the beginning of real restoration. Because God doesn't only comfort. Sometimes, He also exposes the false foundations a person has been building on. Not to humiliate, but to save. A house built on sand can look beautiful for a long time, until there's a storm. But the storm doesn't ask whether we like our architecture. It just comes and shows you where the rock was and where the sand was. And that's why Frankl matters today. He reminds us, comfort isn't enough. You can have a comfortable life and no peace. You can have money and no meaning. You can be surrounded by people and feel completely alone inside. Because the soul isn't satisfied by what's on the outside. It's looking for a foundation. And if that foundation is wrong, a person will always be anxious. This is where the difference between a true foundation and a false one becomes clear. A false foundation promises safety, then demands more and more fear, control, and tension. God works differently. He doesn't enslave a person with anxiety. He brings them back to the truth. Sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, but always deeper than just try harder. He doesn't just improve the outer life. He reorders what's inside. Because the real problem often isn't that something is missing. Sometimes the problem is that everything inside is in the wrong order. Good things became ultimate. The temporary became eternal. Gifts became idols. Means became meaning. And God ended up somewhere at the edges, a backup plan for when everything else stops working. But a solid foundation can't be a backup plan. You either build on it, or you remember it too late, when the walls are already cracking. The world often tells us, believe in yourself. And there's truth in that. A person shouldn't despise themselves. They should own responsibility, develop their gifts, get up, act, take steps. But in real darkness, self-belief alone often isn't enough. Because you know how fragile you are, how quickly you can panic, how quickly you can snap, how quickly you can turn bitter, how quickly you can lose your clarity. So mature strength doesn't just say, I'll handle it. It goes deeper. I'm not alone. My life isn't random. My pain isn't the final word. God sees my path. And even when I don't understand why, I can trust the one who is greater than my understanding. That's not magical thinking. It's not a promise that everything gets easier right away. It's the inner foundation that keeps a person from falling apart while they walk through the hard thing. Sometimes a person thinks faith should make the pain disappear, but faith often does something different. It gives you the strength not to bow to the pain. Pain is real, but it's not God. Fear is real, but it's not your master. Loss is real, but it's not your whole life. The past is real, but it doesn't get to steal the whole future. And then a person starts to come back. Not fast, not pretty, nothing like the commercials, but real. First, they just stop making things worse. Then they take one right step, then another. Then they start telling the truth. Then they stop feeding their resentment every day. Then they learn to stay quiet where they used to destroy with words. Then they ask for forgiveness. Then they accept help. Then they start caring for someone again. That's how a person is restored. Not always through a big breakthrough, often through small faithfulness. Sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the one loudly talking about their victory. It's the one who, on a day of pain, simply takes the next right step. Frankl helps us see, a person doesn't have to be driven only by reaction, not just by fear, not just by impulse, not just by what was done to them, not just by what they lost. A person can have a response. And in that response, their dignity shows. Not the proud dignity that says, I'm above everyone, but the quiet dignity of someone who knows, I wasn't made to be a slave to my pain. I was made for more. So saying yes to life doesn't mean saying yes to everything that happened. No, we're not saying yes to evil, not to betrayal, not to abuse, not to injustice, not to destruction. We're saying something else. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I'm still responsible for my heart. Yes, God isn't finished with me. Yes, I can walk through this, not as someone the pain has finally defeated, but as someone learning to stand on something more solid. And if there's one thought to take from all of this, it might be this. A person becomes stronger not by denying pain, but by finding a foundation that goes deeper than the pain. So the question this video leaves us with isn't, how do I get stronger? It's a different one. What am I building my life on? On success? On relationships? On control? On what people think? Or on God, truth, love, responsibility, faithfulness, and meaning that doesn't collapse every time my plans do? That question can be uncomfortable, but it's a kind one. Because it's better to see the crack in the foundation now than to wait until the storm brings the whole house down. I want to end simply. If you're going through something hard right now, don't demand that you instantly become strong. Start with the truth. Admit where it hurts. Admit where you're exhausted. Admit where you've been clinging to false foundations. Admit where you've been trying to control everything. Admit where your heart has gotten hard. But don't stop there. Take the next right step. Not the whole path at once. Not your whole life at once. Not full recovery in one day. One step. One honest prayer. One conversation. One right decision. One choice not to do the destructive thing. One act of faithfulness. One attempt to live again from meaning, not fear. Frankl's main lesson isn't that strong people don't suffer. They do. The real lesson is this. A person can suffer and still not lose themselves, if inside them there is meaning, love, responsibility, and a foundation that goes deeper than circumstances. And if today it feels like a lot has fallen apart, that doesn't mean you have. Maybe what God is calling you to right now isn't the pretty picture of your old life, but something deeper, to truth, to faith, to inner freedom, to love without slavery, to responsibility without pride, to hope without self-deception. If this video spoke to you, go ahead and like it. It genuinely helps this kind of content reach the people who are hurting right now and looking not for noise, but for something to hold on to. And if while watching this you thought of someone, a friend, someone close to you who's going through pain right now, send them this video. Thank you for being here. Guard your heart. Don't give pain the last word. And remember, if life today doesn't look like the one you dreamed of, that doesn't mean it's lost its meaning. Sometimes a new path begins exactly where the old foundations gave out. Until next time.